components first. These are the ones that we've been using for the play testing for the whole time. And I like to use these tackle box things to store for my board games, and so that's how I'm storing this. So I bought all of these little cubes. They're just little plastic clear cubes, and I bought all of these on Game Crafter, and I bought what I thought I needed, and I've got probably about the right amount of the black and yellow, but I have way too many of these, and I just thought I'd need more. These pieces here we use for counters to identify certain parts, like there's quests where you have to go to 2 different locations, and so we'll mark on the board the 2 locations with these little gems. And I got these actually from Legend of the Five Rings, the old trading card game that I used to play a long time ago, but they're basically just like, you know, Moncala pieces, so you could get them from there, or you can buy them from a place like, you know, Game Crafters, and I think they're like a resin, so they're pretty affordable, but I just have a bunch of these in there. These are some extra wooden meeples that I bought early on when I thought I was going to use meeples to play with, and I do still use some of them for the board, but like for instance, so here's the components for the green player, and we're not always using all of these components anymore, but this is what I still have in the board, so let me just show you these really quick. So this is a piece that we use for a counter, and you can see I've painted it green on one side and on the other side it's white. These came from another board game as well. I had these printed. A friend of mine has a 3D printer, and so I printed out a bunch of different components. This was a backpack. It looks a little bit like a whistle, but it was a backpack that I designed back when we actually had a backpack in the game. We don't have a backpack in the game anymore. These are the player pieces. The actual tiles on the game board are only 1 centimeter across, and so in order to make things fit and be able to easily pick up your piece and move it, these tall, thin pieces are appropriate. Now, this was made at a time when, let me see if I can get that a little closer where you can see it. See, it's like a sword and a shield. These were made at a time when the game was a swords and sorcery game. It is no longer that. We've changed the game, and so I'm going to be making a new piece that's got like a, probably some sort of a gun or something. I haven't figured that out yet, but I will be doing that. This is the, see if I can get this close enough so you can see it. So this has got stars on one side and an X on the other. This is the piece for the celebration token. Basically, one of the rules in the game is after you do if you want to buy a point, you can buy a point for 7 coins. And if you do that, you're throwing a celebration in town to increase your fame. And once you do that, you flip the token over to the X side, and then you have to do some other heroic action before you can throw another party. So that's what that is. This is the sprint token. See if I can get it to notice me here. Sprint token, so I got a little guy running, and on the other side it's an X. And again, that was printed on a 3D printer, and then I just painted them the color of the piece. This is the stamina token. It's like a little lightning bolt. Now, it was made with a hex bottom because originally I was trying to make a board, a player board that was a thick piece of plastic, and then you'd insert these in there so that they wouldn't move around. We still may do that in the final component piece. It'll be, of course, cardboard at that time, and I don't know if these are going to stick well. They end up falling over, so from a design standpoint, I think I'm going to change that. But and same with the hearts. This is the life counter. See if I can get it to notice. Yeah, there's the life counter. So it's a little heart, but they end up falling over, so it's not really optimal. And then we used to have XP counters as well. See if I can get it to pick me up here. Come on. See, it's got XP on it. And also, same thing, it was supposed to stick into that board. Did not work very well. This is a meeple that I painted with a stripe on top because, again, originally we had a green meeple for the green player and a green with white stripe, kind of like a little skunk stripe on the top, meeple for their NPC. But now the green player uses the player marker, the sword and shield, which it won't pick up, but anyway, you'll get the idea. And then four of these are used on the player board, and these are just the regular cylinders that you've probably seen a million times, the little wood cylinders. So 4 of these are used to identify actions on your turn, and then the 5th one is used to mark how many points you have in the game. So that's a complete set of components for a player, along with a few extras we're no longer using. And a lot of them were 3D printed, but the cylinders are made of wood, and again, I got those on Game Crafters. And as I told you, some of the others are from another game entirely. And then I bought 100 of these metal coins from China, because I really wanted to have metal coins, and they look like Chinese coins, but there's nothing wrong with that. In the game, the actual game, these are considered either CR as in credit or copper rings. So probably we're going to try to find or design a component that looks like a copper ring, not a Chinese dragon, coin. So that is a full look at all of the components that we're using right now in the game. And so we are going to look at making a board game piece. Let me show you this briefly. This is the game, the full game. And in a perfect world, this is a box for a game called Thunderstone. In a perfect world, I would love to have this game be kind of assembled like this, so that it comes with a box like that to hold all the components, and is built like a wooden chest that you unlatch and open. That would be, in a perfect world, like the deluxe edition would be like that. And this shape maybe even, but I don't know, because there's really no games that use this exact shape, and I don't want to be the weird odd man out. So I may have to figure out a new way to build this component set. Maybe getting one of these made from a place called Game Trays that custom makes board game components. This is the rules that I currently have just printed like that. Don't have like descriptions with pictures and all that. I need to work on that. These are player's aids that I designed that give all of the details about kind of what to do on your turn, how you can make points, where you can buy and sell and trade, and all of these little icons I custom designed. You can kind of see that maybe there. Up close rules for shotguns, and where you get, when you get your score, what your score affects, so that, because at times when we're playing on this big table, there are people that are sitting a long ways away from this scoreboard, this resource board. This resource board tells you when you're at level 1 and you start, and level 2 you get to 5 points, level 3 or legendary you get to 9 points, and then beyond that, depending on how long of a game you're playing. And so you can kind of customize the length of your game. So these give some of those details. And of course they're all just paper right now. I just printed them out on my digital printer. And then this is the player board for each person. And originally these were literally like twice this size. They were the same size as the resource board. So I made them a lot smaller because we were finding that we were running out of room on our tables unless we had a massive table. Now I play a lot of board games, and so this table that I'm sitting at right now is our board game table, and it is huge. You can sit 8 people at it easily, and so this game will fit no problem. But not everybody has a table that size. And that's actually one of the reasons why I designed the pieces to be so much smaller. It would be a lot easier if each hex that you're moving through was like 40 millimeter miniature size, because then I'd be able to get any miniature I want to fit on the board. But from a logistics standpoint, it won't fit on a typical table because there's 24 pieces in this board. And the way the game is played, very, very, very quickly, all 24 pieces are out because you are kind of encouraged by the rules to quickly explore the map. There are quests in play that you can't do until you can find a different location. And so you want to get the location out so you can go and do your quest. There are legendary items in the game that give you a lot of points, and they're amazing abilities, and you can't do that until you can find the location where the legendary piece is. And so those types of rules kind of encourage the board to be built out very quickly. And as a result of that, I had to do a smaller board. So this is, I'm going to show you an example of one of the board pieces that I have now. So this is Bonner's Ferry. See if I can get that close enough so you can see it here. There we go. So this is Bonner's Ferry, and it's made out of a piece of 1/4 inch thick wood, or 1/4 inch thick wood that I ordered laser cut, and then I printed using, went to Walmart Photo and I ordered these components, or these printed pieces. Let me see if I can find actual Bonner's Ferry. There's Bonner's Ferry right there. So this is the Bonner's Ferry sheet of photo paper, and I basically just order a photo mat. So I exported to a 4x6, which is the right size for these because they're basically 3.75 inches across. So as you can see, I designed these with some bleed, so I'm cutting on this little dotted line right here. And then I use my piece of laser cut wood here, and I basically cut out one of these things to fit and glue it on with handy dandy glue. This is the best stuff for crafting and modeling in my opinion, and it cleans up easy, which is super nice. And then on the bottom, I used to have like 3 little rubber pads to protect my table because I don't want my nice table to get scratched up. And I also don't want the pieces sliding around because then, you know, if somebody bumps the table, all of our stuff goes everywhere. So this time I went to Amazon, and you can buy sheets of weather stripping, and this is 1/8 of a I think it's 1/8 of an inch. Yeah, 1/8 of an inch weather stripping. You can see where I've cut out this weather stripping, and it's pre-adhesive back, so I don't have to glue it on, which is nice because rubber's a little tougher to glue on. I probably would have had to use spray adhesive or something. And so I cut it out and stuck it on. Then I let them dry overnight, even though technically you don't really need to let Elmer's dry that long, maybe an hour or something, but I figured why not. So I put them in a big stack, and I put a bunch of pressure on top of them. And as far as cutting them out, put this back really briefly. I guess I should show you the rest of the components too. So I also bought, I have this little bag for dice, and you can hear them in there. I also bought a whole bunch of dice. So the 20-sided we use for quite a few things in the game, and I only have one, and I'll probably get a prettier one. I've got a whole bunch of 20-sideds that I use for roleplay gaming, but I got 2 different types of dice, 2 different colors of dice, because there's attack dice and then there's defense dice, and there's a ton of them because I want to have enough dice for everybody to be able to have enough for themselves. So I think I've got, I don't know, when you buy these smaller dice, I'm trying to remember what size they are. They're Chessex dice, and Chessex comes in 2 sizes. They come in like your standard dice size, and then they come in these smaller sizes. And when you buy these, I think you get like 24 or 36 in a case versus like 12 or something. So you get a lot more dice, and that's good. And the other thing is, because in this game, you're oftentimes rolling like this many dice, you know? You need to have enough that you can fill your hand and not have to roll in like lots because you roll so many dice. And so it's a good thing. Dice are fun to roll anyway. And then the last thing is I've got a ton of cards in this game. As you can see, these are all cards in these sleeves, and they all have different kind of. I used a bunch of. This is a Ultra Pro sleeve. You can see by the little shiny symbol thing there. I don't know if this thing's gonna cooperate. There you go. So these are legendary items, and we don't have artwork for them yet because that's going to be kind of part of the Kickstarter. So when we get to the point where we do the Kickstarter, then one of the things we're going to be paying for is the art. We've got some already, but we need a lot more to make the game really as rich and beautiful as it can be. And so these are all individually. I wrote all of the content for all of these cards. There's little kind of flavor text on each one, and then the game rule stuff. And we may actually end up moving this stuff to the top because when you're playing the game, you'll have a whole bunch of items. And so we may be moving these game rule items up to the very top here so that when you're sitting there in front of you, you can stack all your items like this and see the game rule data right there and not have so much room taken up. Because right now, in order to see all this stuff, you'd have to stack them like this, which, you know, takes up way more room on the game board. And again, trying to make sense of the amount of stuff you have. Like in front of you, you could have a whole lot of stuff. So those are legendary items, and then these are transportation. So you start in the game with a motorcycle if you want a really basic piece of transportation, and by the end of the game you can buy the Griffin helicopter, which is pretty awesome because you can fly over the bad stuff, not get in fights all the time unless you want to. And then you can, these are the basic items that you can buy at the beginning of the game. A lot of people start with the Model 29 pistol, and then if you want to upgrade mid-game or at some later point, you can upgrade to the Combat Commander. And then also you know, there's a whole bunch of other types of weapons and stuff that you can use in the game. There's sniper rifles, there's, let's see, the shotguns, there are shields, riot shields, and ballistic shields, Kevlar vests, and then there is med kits, and then we've got, this is... Yeah, those are your legendary items. So there's enough for it's a 6-player game, and there's enough for 8 people's worth of them, so that you will not always use all of them. So you never know what's going to be in the game until the beginning of the game. These are quests, these kind of teal-colored cards, and they tell you where to go, they tell you what to do, and they tell you what you're going to get from them. And they will not have art on them because there's just too much content on each of these cards. So trying to keep the text size sensible. Then these are the legendary quests, and they give you 2 points instead of 1 point, and they have kind of some interesting things, and then they give you a boon once you get them complete. And then all of these purple cards are unique magic items. They're not magic. They're we're calling them artifacts now. So they're unique artifacts, and so each one gives you a special ability, like this one for instance. See if we can get it to show up here. There we go. So the sand amulet, it's worth 4 gold if you want to sell it. You can use it to move between Sandpoint and Bonner's Ferry for 6 movement. Now at times Bonner's Ferry and Sandpoint will be all the way across the game board, and at other times they could be right next to each other, and you just want to sell this thing as quick as you can. But that's what it is. And then there's all kinds of weaponry in here. Everything is completely unique. So if you get something that you like and you think you are going to sell it, you might think twice because you're not going to get another one. There's not another one in the game. So this is a MWD entry shotgun. It has acid and short range ability. It's worth 5 gold, and it gives you 5 dice to attack, plus 2 per level. So it gives you a lot of dice, and that's why I have so many dice in the game. And then the flavor text on this is Dieter Mars and his close friend Harry Williams designed this shotgun for SWAT teams of the 21st century. The weapon deployed an acid burst, which would destroy the fittings of a door utterly, including any countermeasures affixed. So I kind of wrote like some story into the game to make it more interesting. And then these are your monsters. So we got level 1 monsters, level 2 monsters, and level 3 monsters. And the monsters aren't always monsters, sometimes they're guys. This is an undead Amarok, which is a monster that's actually... A lot of the monsters in this, because this game is based in a real place in North America, a lot of the monsters are actually monsters from the history of the American Indians. And it just made sense to me to use kind of things that made American Indians afraid. But I need to add quite a few more. And then these are the character cards. And for now, they don't have any art on them, but they will eventually have art on them. And when on one side is your starting character, and then once you get to a higher level, once you get to legendary, once you get to 9 points, then you flip it over and you get additional abilities and stuff like that. So it's a lot of fun. And then these extra cards that are in here are spells for some of the characters that use spells, or they're like this is the Bobcat for the Beastmaster character. And then these cards are the NPCs. So you can see there's a lot of cards in this game. And a lot of board pieces and all that. So there's 4 basic board pieces and 20 of the randomized pieces. So you start the game by setting up the 4 basic pieces, and then the randomized pieces go into a big stack, and you pull them up randomly and put them out as you explore, as you move off the piece that you're on.